It is going to be difficult to keep Grunkemeyer, and we hope Rapp stays. Both of them. But I laid out my thoughts. It is difficult because of the QB depth chart. Matt Campbell's best interest is the concern of the depth chart and not just necessarily Grunkemeyer.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Grunk made his case to be QB1 for next year, but I still believe you need a veteran presence in the room to help out. Okay, we're on the same page there. It's simply put, it's the depth chart or Ethan Grunkemeyer. And I think you have to talk about the depth chart. Zach, I'm worried about the defense next year. The offense will be more explosive. As far as the defense goes, it's predicated on D'Anton Lynn. Are they going to hire him? Are they going to go with Anthony Poindexter? I'm not really sure. People I talk to are, Penn State's just kind of waiting until USC is open to make that. USC is finished with its season to make that move. I'm partial to Anthony Poindexter. My preference would be D'Anton Lynn. I think D'Anton Lynn is one of the best young minds in all of college football. Penn State alum. That's the ideal setup. You just go get guys in the portal. You just go get guys in the transfer portal. I would start with what you have locally. So the players that I would want to retain if I'm Matt Campbell, Yvonne Kamaju at defensive end. It's not likely, but don't forget about Max Granville. Max Granville was up and coming and then injury derailed this season. That's a nice tandem at defensive end. Ideally Chaz Coleman, but Chaz Coleman's already in the portal, right? 2 starting linebackers with Amari Campbell and Tony Rojas, if they want to be here. Your secondary, Davian Collins, Darius Dixon, Jameer Joseph, King Mack. You got a full secondary right there. But not everybody's going to stay. You already have Iowa State players going into the transfer portal. I would assume that they're Penn State players until they're not. Jontez Williams and Jeremiah Cooper are in the portal. They were arguably Iowa State's best defensive players going into this past season, but they had injuries. They're both cornerbacks, safeties. So Penn State loses guys in the secondary, okay? So defensive line is going to be the priority because it starts up front. You lost Zariah Fisher, Dani Dennis-Sutton, Alonzo Ford, okay? Zane Durant. You lost your entire starting defensive line. Xavier Gilliam's good. Like, there are guys that I would want back, but if they don't stay, just go in the portal. My concern would be defensive tackle. Penn State needs to find a way to improve the defensive tackle spot. Defensive end's been great. We know that. Linebacker has been better recently. Defensive tackle, that should be the priority. Let's see. Accidentally, we'll scroll up and down the comments a little too quickly. Grunkemeyer made a statement too. Yes, we all agree. Great game. And that's a terrible weather game, and he made it look like it was no issue. So glad that Andy Kotelnicki is gone. What was the drive in the third with all of the reverses? Like, dude, one smoke and mirror play. I'm indifferent with Andy Kotelnicki. I know there are a number of Penn State fans that don't want him, that want him shipped to the moon. And I can understand just with the frustration, but he was not the same offensive coordinator. Penn State's offense, let's acknowledge what's true. Penn State's offense was top 15 last year with basically the Tyler Warren show. That is a testament to Andy Kotelnicki as an offensive coordinator and a play caller. When your weapon was Tyler Warren and you still had a top 20 group, a top 15 group. They were 15th in total offensive production. And then when Terry Smith actually holds him accountable, stop with the 2 QB system, stop with the gimmicky plays or limit them, right? You can call here, you get 5. You get 5 in a game and that's your fill. That's your fix. And notice how, again, Penn State's offense completely... Cade Klubnik's going off to the NFL, and he's one of the more intriguing quarterback prospects. I mean, some people had him as a top 10 pick going into the preseason. That is far from the case now. But Cade Klubnik is still an NFL quarterback that will be drafted. Ethan Grunkemeyer severely outplayed him. Compare 68 completion percentage to 56, 262 yards to 193, 2 touchdown passes to no touchdown passes, 397 total yards in a game where offense should not have happened. There was sleet, there was rain, the wintry mix, 20 degrees. This was a game that should have had little to no offensive production, and somehow Penn State still got enough of it. More than enough of it. Andy Kotelnicki deserves credit there. Andy Kotelnicki also didn't need to call plays in this game. He had no reason to. Jim Knowles said, I'm out. I'm gone. I'm headed to Knoxville. I'm going to Tennessee. Bye. Andy Kotelnicki had every reason for the same thing, to say, I don't want to call plays in this game. I'm being fired. I'm not being retained. My replacement's already waiting. Why should I call games for Penn State? So I understand the criticisms of Andy Kotelnicki. I don't think they're as egregious and as warranted as some people would make them out to be. I think Andy Kotelnicki was one of the better coordinator hires in James Franklin's tenure, and I think he'll succeed somewhere else. That's my 2 cents on Andy Kotelnicki. I understand his shortcomings, but I think he did a lot for Penn State under the circumstances. Chad says, can we give props to Dani Dennis-Sutton for most of the game? Does that make him a Penn State legend for not sitting out? Yeah, absolutely. I think Dani Dennis-Sutton has made his case over the course of his career. He was a spark plug above all else. I mean, the guy just has the energy, he's just able to just motivate. He's got a switch that he flips on and off. And once that switch is on, good luck trying to slow him down. But he is not a Penn State legend solely for not sitting out. He made plays in that game in the college football semifinal. I know it was a loss. Understand. But he kept Penn State in that game last season. He was an effective, that was a nice dynamic duo tandem that Penn State had between he and Abdul Carter. Because people would think about Dani Dennis-Sutton's season this year in a much different lens, would have a much different lens for this season if Penn State was 10-2 or 11-1. He still had a great season. He's going to be a high draft pick in 2026. So I'm not going to remember Dani Dennis-Sutton just for having a solid pinstripe bowl game. It's going to go much further. I'm going to add that to what I think about him. It takes it that much of a step further, but comprehensively, Dani Dennis-Sutton, he was a 5-star, committed to Penn State last second, stayed for all 4 seasons when he could have transferred out. He got calls. Everybody, they all get calls. They all get recruited. He never left. He stayed for all 4 years. He came back to try to build a championship team. It didn't happen, but that's what I remember Dani Dennis-Sutton for. Our new defensive guys look more promising than our new offensive guys. I would say they're the same. I would say they're about the same. Quentin Martin, Andrew Rapley. If you're built, let's assume these for the sake of the conversation. Let's assume that they're all staying. Let's assume that everybody that is a key player for next year is going to stay with Penn State, and Matt Campbell's going to bring them back. The offensive core of Ethan Grunkemeyer, Anthony Donko, Cooper Cousins, TJ Shanahan, Kobe Howard, Quentin Martin, Corey Smith, Andrew Rapley, Luke Reynolds. That is a darn good offensive group you can build around. Then you flip it over to the defense. Ivan Kamaju, Xavier Gilliam, Jalen Harvey, Max Granville, ideally Amari Campbell and Tony Rojas, the entire secondary. You have 4 starters in the secondary already. Davian Collins, King Mack, Darius Dixon, and Jameer Joseph. I'd say they're pretty even. I just rattled off 10 names on each side, give or take. I think not, maybe 9 for both, because I think I counted 9 for offense and give or take 8, 9, 10 again. So same ballpark. The production is there on both sides of the football. So to each their own. Do I think that Darius Dixon outperformed Kobe Howard today? Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's a fact of the matter when you compare them 1-to-1. But if you're comparing them as entire defense to the entire offense, I would say they're pretty comparable. Like Matt Campbell's in a solid situation where he has his Iowa State guys that he can go and get. But if he's able to retain all of those players that I just named, I mean, you're off to a phenomenal start if you're Matt Campbell. But we'll see. I guess I should peek into social media to see if anybody's already hit the portal. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place live bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into that moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. You have lines for NFL football that you can bet on, both before the game and in the middle of the game. You can bet on college football as well, with bowl games still going on. All the possibilities are there over at FanDuel.com and the FanDuel app. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, just visit FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app, and you can place your NFL live bets all season long. That's FanDuel. The game moves fast, and so can you. Because that's already the inclination that everyone's going to stay, or excuse me, that there are going to be a lot of people that was the word on social media, was that people were going to leave. Okay. That we're going to see a bunch of names jump into the transfer portal ASAP. So the game's over, and now we're just kind of waiting. So I'm glad that there's no breaking news on my social media feed right now about somebody leaving. And even though he didn't play, he was out due to injury. Alex Tatch, I'd include Alex Tatch in that for linebacker. Tony Rojas, Amari Campbell, Alex Tatch for your trio next season. That's the group. That's the group. Don't forget about LeVar Arrington II. Had a redshirt season. Needed time to add the weight. Needed to build up the body for college football. Let's see where did I leave off in the comments? 21 on defense, had a hell of a game. Vabu Toure, really good ball player. And somebody had a strong blue and white game. Just a lot of depth at safety. Zachy Wheatley didn't play in this game. That's who he was. You're going to play Zachy Wheatley for 99% of snaps. That's why. What a win. So happy for Coach Smith and all the guys who played. Great way to finish the season. Yep. We're on the same page here, Chad. Grunk has that dog in him and throws a beautiful ball. Do I want to go crazy with my take? But we didn't have this same kind of conversation about Drew Aller after 7 games. If we take Drew Aller, okay, after the West Virginia game in year 1, probably. But then it's severely cooled off. I don't think Drew had another game like that for the rest of the 2020. That was the 23 season. Competition matters, okay? But even against some of those weaker teams, it's not like Drew. Did Drew ever go 23 of 34 against somebody that wasn't West Virginia? Throw for nearly 300 yards. To this point, I would say that Grunk had the best performance against. So if we're weighting the performances, Ethan Grunkemeyer's performance, if you compare and contrast him to Drew Aller, he has the best overall performance given the opponent because of that game against Indiana. I want to get the stats because I want to back this up. Oh, there's NFL games going on. Jeez, I'm so wrapped up in Penn State and college football that I don't even realize there's a pro game going on right now. For anybody that cares, the Texans are winning. Texans look really good. So let's go to that Indiana game. Ethan Grunkemeyer, 22 of 31, 219 yards, a touchdown, and the one interception early in the second half. But most of those stats, most of those yards came in the second half. Did Drew ever have a game like that? Where maybe Oregon in the Big Ten championship game, I guess that's comparable. But I just think about, okay, where Ethan Grunkemeyer is in year 2 after 7 starts, I have more optimism for him than I did Drew Aller. And that's saying something. I'm trying to plug my charger in there. So I imagine a lot of people agree. There's just more optimism. People like Drew and still said, hey, this guy has promise. But I think collectively, most of us walked away and said, you kind of had to justify Drew Aller's first year starting. Ethan Grunkemeyer's work backed it all up. What do all the social media comments say? What does everyone in the live chat say? There is not a single person in this live chat off to my right that says, well, I don't know, Ethan Grunkemeyer is not the guy. You might want to go with Bo. You might want to go with Rocco Becht. Everybody's saying Ethan Grunkemeyer, Ethan Grunkemeyer, Ethan Grunkemeyer. You rewind to post 2023. Was anybody going to bat for Drew the way they are for Ethan Grunkemeyer? The way they're championing him, cheering him on? No. So if you want my take on it, Grunkemeyer is on a track to be better than Drew and looks better than Drew after these 7 starts. I just can't think of any other games other than you have the Oregon Big Ten championship game. You have you have the 2 West Virginia games. And that's it. Ethan Grunkemeyer against Indiana looked great in those final few games against Nebraska and Rutgers. And now in a game where you should have had a stat line that was comparable to Cade Klubnik's. Basically a 50% completion percentage, almost under 200 yards, maybe a turnover or 2. Grunk's come a long way, and in such a short amount of time. So that's it. It's the pocket presence. It's not even about the stats for me. It's about the pocket presence, the ability to create. I felt like the clock in Drew's head would go off way too quickly. Grunk, he'll take the sack from time to time, and it's like, okay. But he lets the play develop. I feel like Drew never really let the play develop. And if I had to say those were the biggest difference between Drew and Grunk, is the fact that Grunk is not afraid to stand in the pocket. Grunk is not afraid to let the play develop. Whereas Drew, 3 seconds, I got to get out of here. I got to escape the pocket. We got to ad-lib the play. That's how I would put it with Grunk, and I would take Grunkemeyer over Drew Aller as the starter for next season if you had the choice between the two. I'll go on the record and say that, and I think there's a number of people that would agree. So, Zach, when does Matt Campbell officially gain control of this team? Tonight, tomorrow, after January 1st? I don't know officially, but I would imagine now, like tomorrow, for the sake of the conversation, right? Let Terry Smith celebrate with the team. They got to travel back, all of those things. It is Matt Campbell's team. Whether it's officially, like, what is the actual contractual obligation? Probably the new year, right? The transfer portal opens January 2nd. You could even make the argument that when he was officially hired, because he's been having conversations, he's been recruiting players. So it's been Matt Campbell's program. He's been behind the scenes working now for how many weeks? 2-3 weeks. But as far as this team, it's still Terry Smith's team probably for the next 12 hours or so. They're going to celebrate. They'll travel back home. This is a big deal. I would not just say, oh, it's just a bowl game. Under the circumstances, in the scheme of things, this was a massive win for Terry Smith. So Rocco can't be here. You got to keep Grunk. See you, Rocco. Well, it's not when it's Ethan Grunkemeyer versus Rocco Becht in a 1-to-1 matchup. I'm taking Ethan Grunkemeyer every single time because I think both QBs are the same right now. I would say Grunkemeyer's better right now. So they're either comparable or Grunk's slightly better. And I think a lot of Penn State fans are going to say Grunk's slightly better. But when it's Grunkemeyer versus Rocco Becht and the QB of the future, it's a different conversation. So unless Penn State has a plan to bring in a QB2 every single season for the next couple of years, then you go with Ethan Grunkemeyer. Who do you convince every year to be a backup? How do you recruit a QB2? You're going to be QB2. How do you do that? You tell someone that you're not going to be the starter here. Okay, so this was earlier. I'm getting to this now towards the end of the live show. But here we are. This isn't a knock on Aller, but Grunk just looks the part of a star QB. See, look at that. In real time, and people were already ahead of it in the live chat. Aller looked good in 2 West Virginia games. Okay, and against USC. Okay, thank you for that. But that's the thing. I don't even know that I blame Drew Aller. And this episode is also brought to you by Gametime. There's nothing like the college football season. You got tailgates, you got packed stadiums. You're right in the middle of the action, right in the middle of all of it. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever. But actually getting tickets, okay, that part used to be frustrating. You had long queues, logins, prices jumping at checkout. That's why Gametime gives the advantage back to you, the fan. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. You can open up the Gametime app to look at upcoming college football games. Choose your favorite team, choose a game you want to go to, and you'll be surprised how fast it was to find great seats. The app is incredibly easy to use. You can go from browsing to buying tickets in just minutes. One of the best features. You see your point of view ahead of time. You get to see the view from your seat before you go to buy. So if you've never been to a stadium, you've never been to a venue, you will know exactly what your POV is ahead of time. And knowing the prices, that they include all the fees up front, makes the whole process stress-free. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that is code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. I don't know that I can blame Drew Aller. I think they capped him. I think James Franklin did a lot of things in his power to make sure that Aller never made the detrimental mistake. They were more worried about Aller making a mistake than making the big plays. I don't believe that James Franklin set Drew Aller up for success. I had a viral post about it because when you think about it back, hindsight's 2020, but you bring in a 5-star quarterback, and what do you do with said 5-star quarterback? You build a run-first offense. You go and have a 2-headed monster in the backfield. You don't recruit any wide receivers, or you don't recruit any really good ones. So you have a run-centric, run-heavy offense. You get coordinators to reinforce that. Andy Kotelnicki is a run-heavy offensive coordinator. So you get an offensive coordinator that goes against the 5-star quarterback. You go and build out the offensive line and the tight ends and the ground game. Basically, what I'm saying is Aller didn't have the supporting cast necessary to give him the opportunity to take that next step. That you did everything to build up the ground game, and you basically made him a game manager. It showed up with the player personnel. It showed because you had to, if Aller was going to take that next step, okay, flip it. I'm not saying that I would replace Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen, but imagine if you went and got their equivalents at wide receiver for Drew. You got a superstar tandem at wide receiver rather than a superstar tandem at running back. And then what else does James Franklin do? So he hires a run-first offensive coordinator in Andy Kotelnicki. They treat Drew Aller like a game manager. What else do? You also hire not one, but two inexperienced position coaches with Danny O'Brien and Marcus Higgins at two of the most important positions for a 5-star QB, quarterback and wide receiver. And you go and get two position coaches that have no business trying to try to help and develop a 5-star QB. So I say this about Drew Aller with respect to the fact that James Franklin did not do him any favors. He did not help out Drew Aller whatsoever. And notice what happens when you give a quarterback a stable environment. And why Ethan Grunkemeyer is trending in the right direction is because they're not treating him like he's a game manager. They're not treating him, they're not putting training wheels on the offense. They're letting him throw. They're letting him do things that a quarterback should be able to do, that has the freedom within the offense. They made Aller a game manager other than, and even against West Virginia, it's not like Aller willed them to victory. He just had a really good game. The only time they said, we're taking the limitations off of the passing offense was when they were in the USC game and the Oregon Big Ten championship game. That was it. They never let Aller just sling the football, just throw the ball. And they didn't recruit the supporting cast to help him out. Offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, wide receivers coach, and they never build up the pass catchers as well. Everything went into them. James Franklin literally tried to copy the Michigan blueprint without the cheating. J.J. McCarthy was a 5-star quarterback, have a two-headed monster at running back with Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, recruit some blocking wide receivers, go and get 2 tight ends, and just run the football. That is why Drew never developed. It wasn't just, it's not all on Drew. I think a lot of it is on James Franklin and the assets or lack thereof that were around Drew. Let's see. So we're back to quarterback. I got to take a drink of water at some point if we're going to continue this conversation. You bring Rocco Becht in as a starter, and you damn well better believe that Grunkemeyer is transferring elsewhere. Further develop Grunkemeyer, ready him to be QB1 for the 2026 season. Yeah, we're on the same page here. I mean, that's what I mean. I go back to just put yourself in Ethan Grunkemeyer's shoes. Do you really want to go back to being a backup when everyone's calling for you to be the starter? No. And for what it's worth, I do like Rocco Becht. I think Penn State can succeed with either of them. Which one I like more? Grunkemeyer. But it's not like you're going from, hey, rising star to total dumpster fire. Rocco Becht never had superstar wide receivers to throw to. Again, kind of similar setup to, but that's okay. So what's the difference now? Well, you're bringing everybody over from Iowa State as offensive coordinator, as wide receivers coach, as quarterbacks coach. Give him wide receivers. Give him Andrew Rapplier to throw to. Give him Kobe Howard. Go and get some other portal wide receivers and watch Rocco Becht play football. Rocco Becht is currently the 4th best. I think. Let me see if I can pull up the transfer portal rankings from 24/7. They either have him as, I think he's a top 10 player in the portal right now. Top 10 overall player in the portal. That's not by accident. Chaz Coleman's number 1. Oh, I don't like seeing that. I don't like seeing that. He's number 11. Okay, so Rocco Becht is currently the number 11 player in the transfer portal overall. And that's according to 24/7. Chaz Coleman's number 1. We're just going to ignore that. So you're not getting a bad quarterback. But my preference is Ethan Grunkemeyer. I'm just explaining things from Matt Campbell and Penn State's point of view. Massive respect for Dani Dennis-Sutton playing 4 quarters. I kept seeing him in the game and kept saying he's still out there. I said the same thing. I said the exact same thing. I was like, he's still playing football. He's done or he's not done. Would you prefer Grunk or Becht? Grunk, easily. Would I prefer Grunk and an unstable quarterback room or Rocco Becht in a stable quarterback room? That's where it gets. But again, if you can recruit, if you can say, hey, we're going to go and get a 5th-year veteran like Ohio State has done. Ohio State went and recruited a grad transfer just to be a QB2. If you're going to do that, okay, keep Ethan Grunkemeyer. But if you're not, if you're going to go the Oregon route, where you go with Dillon Gabriel as the 1-year plan, and then you have Dante Moore sitting and waiting and seasoning him behind him, a high upside quarterback that just needs a little more development. That's the blueprint. And you aren't wrong with either one. One's just easier than the other. It is easier to recruit somebody to say, you're going to be the starter of the future versus you're going to be our backup. The only way you're going in is if somebody gets injured. Have fun. Let's see. We should go after DJ Lagway. I don't know about that. I see AJ Harris. So, did he really commit? Did we get a commitment? Or did Penn State get a commitment? Because I didn't see any break it there. There it is. There it is. So that's the social media that I missed. I saw the projections that were leading up to it. So Ben Whitver has committed to Penn State for the class of 2026. This guy, I don't know why Penn State and James Franklin didn't recruit him more. Your comment says it. He is the all-time leading receiver in Virginia history. The guy is fast. The guy is quick. He was committed to James Madison. This is the recruiting rankings do not reflect his potential. He was visiting Penn State a ton, but Penn State never pushed for him. I'm glad that Matt Campbell was able to seal the deal here because he easily could have followed Bob Chesney to UCLA. He's a long-term. This isn't a guy you plug and play in year one. He is a guy that you will need to develop, but he's fast. He's quick. Clearly, if you are the all-time leading receiver in Virginia history, you know how to play football. So, but just know that it's probably going to take a couple of years. He is a depth piece now. He will be a starter, probably his redshirt sophomore season, so year 3, if he sticks around. Maybe even before that, depending on how much turnover, how much change opens up. Is this the greatest team of all time? People are saying, the streets are saying, this might be the best 6-5 season ever. Yes, I would agree with that. Under the circumstances, okay, last season was pretty entertaining because they went to the college football semifinal, but 2023, 2022, 2021, COVID, 2019, how does this season stack up against all those other seasons? Were those seasons, when you look back, because hindsight's 2020, would everybody say that all these seasons are exciting? Because it happened the same way. You lose to Ohio State. You lose to Ohio State. You miss the college football playoff. You lose to Ohio State. I would say from the entertainment perspective, for better or for worse, this season certainly had the most of my attention because, they beat Northwestern. They beat Purdue. They beat Maryland. They won the games they were supposed to. But every time you got to the big dance, you got turned away. So the 2025 season, so the Rose Bowl victory was fun. I think that was unexpected. I don't think a lot of people were projecting Penn State. I will say that I thought that Penn State would go 10-2 and be pretty good in 2022. I want to pat myself on the back for that and take credit for that. I thought they would be good that season. But then after that, they lost to Ohio State and Michigan. So this season was, like I said, definitely the most entertaining. It was definitely one of the more entertaining seasons. And it took everything falling apart like this to get to a transitory period. Okay. It all needed to crash and burn for Penn State to get to this point. Okay. We've been talking for almost an hour and 10 minutes. We didn't really get to talk about defensive coordinator. So some people would want Anthony Poindexter. I'm not opposed to it if you don't get Danton Lynn. But I don't know that Anthony Poindexter wants to be a defensive coordinator. So quick thought there. In case I did, I briefly addressed it. But that's where I'm going to wrap it up because we've been talking about an hour and 10 minutes. Matt Campbell era is officially here. There is going to be plenty of coverage, plenty of conversations going forward because there are going to be guys that enter the portal for better or for worse, left and right. Whether it's justified or it's not, this player should have stayed. He could have easily been a starter at Penn State. There are going to be some surprise players that enter the portal. It's going to happen. But you're going to have all the coverage you need over on this channel. So this show is going to go into overdrive. We're now in the off season. There is no off season when it comes to Penn State football. Penn State wrestling as well. We're going to talk about Penn State football, Penn State wrestling, the transfer portal, the recruiting news, all of it. You're going to see this show go into overdrive more than just one daily episode. You're going to get plenty of coverage as the moves are going to happen. There's going to be so much activity between players leaving, players committing, and we're going to break it all down here on Locked On Nittany Lions. So if you are new to the channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts so that you don't miss any one of these conversations. Hey, thank you so much. We're at the end of the 2025 season. We're at the end of the year. Let me just express my gratitude and appreciation to all of you for helping me build this platform to where it is. This platform does not get where it is without all of you. So thank you to everyone who subscribed, everyone who supports the channel, everybody who watches the shows, listens to the podcast, uses this as a source for Penn State sports. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. We're going to have so many more conversations to get to, all right here about your favorite Penn State sports teams on Locked On Nittany Lions.